And welcome back to the Part-Time Otaku Podcast. My name is Dave.
My name's Grant.
And it's finale day.
It is finale day.
Today we're going to talk about Attack on Titan Season 4, Episode 16, otherwise known as the finale of Attack on Titan Part 2, Season 4, Part 1. As this episode broke, they announced that there will be a Part 2 of Season 4, which I think, to the relief of many, or the relief of many.
Yeah.
I don't think too many people were caught by surprise, though.
Yeah, I think the trajectory, especially in the past 4 episodes, clearly set that up. But it was just still waiting for the actual announcement was it was frustrating.
Yeah. Did you see that little stinger they released? Like, it's like 10 seconds of like random assorted images right before they announce part 2. Yeah.
No, I didn't.
It's remarkably unhelpful. It shows you very little, so don't worry.
Okay.
But yeah, so we know there's going to be a part 2, but it's looking like winter 2022. So it's going to be, this is the last time we're going to talk about Attack on Titan for a little while.
Or at least this in depth.
Yeah. So, man, it has been such a blast. This is absolutely not the end.
Absolutely not.
At the top, we got to say thank you guys for listening. I know we've said that a lot, but, like we said in episode 1 and several times after that, we were making this show so that we could talk to each other more frequently. And, the goal was to have more than our girlfriends listen to it. And
a couple more.
Yeah, man, at this point, thousands of you have downloaded the show. That is fucking crazy.
Insane.
To us, hundreds of hours listened. Yeah, man, it's hard to kind of put that into perspective. So thank you for tuning in. Grant, should we tell them what we're going to do after Attack on Titan?
Well, before that, I just want to thank anyone. This has been a real learning process for both of us, and this experience I've always been a very loud boy, and the shyness I have listening back to these episodes and hearing my roaring voice and laugh at points, I apologize to anyone's eardrums, but it's been a real experience so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing and getting better and learning more, and but going forward, so we kind of teased it a little bit last week, but My Hero Academia, it's the next step, Dave.
Yes, it is.
Season
5, yeah. I think episode 1, the premiere of season 5 is out, so that is absolutely what's next for us.
And it's some good shit, so we'll tease it for you guys.
I haven't seen it yet, so I'm very excited to recap a little bit, catch up on season 4, just get a little refresher before I jump into season 5, and then we'll be covering that week to week.
Absolutely.
My Hero is such a different show from Attack on Titan, so I think you can probably expect our analysis and everything about the coverage of that show to be different, but I'm really, really excited to get back to that.
But it was funny, I don't want to get into it, but watching the season 5 opener or leading up to that moment, I had a little trepidation. I've loved My Hero over the years, and it's like you said, they're completely two different shows.
Big time.
And not that My Hero doesn't have the content to really break down and look into, but it had been a while since we watched it, and the tones are completely different. 10 minutes into this new season, I was like, oh my god, we're gonna be fine. There's gonna be lots to talk about. There's gonna be a lot to analyze and observe. So it's exciting to be able to naturally transition to a new show like this. So
killer. Can't wait to do that. We're also talking about the idea of even just having a second show that we might experiment with, throughout the week, because we often end up talking after every podcast about what we're watching in between all this stuff. We talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier and whatever else Marvel is playing, and potentially other animes. So, we might experiment that with that kind of thing too. So, all of that to say, long story short, keep your eyes peeled on the feed. Continue to subscribe. We're not going anywhere. And obviously, we will be back for Attack on Titan Season 4, Part 2, whenever that airs.
Most certainly.
So, with that out of the way, let's talk about this episode. Before we jump into the summary, I want to give a big shout out to Art of Nate or Art of Night, depending on how he changes per social, for the awesome thumbnail. This is this Aaron themed thumbnail that kind of shows some of the changes we've seen him go through this season. One of my favorite of the whole season that we've done, or that we've had on the show. So this is a pretty fitting end thumbnail, I feel like.
Big time. Yeah, really, really good stuff.
Yeah, so shout out. We'll of course credit you, when we post this. So thanks again. Maybe we can jump right in to the synopsis. Last thing I should mention, if it is for some reason your first time listening to the show, we're anime only, so we don't know anything about the manga. Everything we're going to talk about is just our own breakdowns and opinions of the episode and all that. So we're in the same boat as most of you guys. Okay, Season 4, Episode 16. Flock, Zoe, and the Jaegerists are traveling when they hear the explosion caused by Zeke triggering a thunder spear. A Titan finds a half-dead Zeke, tears open its stomach, and stuffs him inside. Yelena has Pixis and other dissenting members of the military assembled in the Shiganshina district. Yelena then explains the euthanization plan to the scouts.
Pieck makes contact with Aaron and claims she supports his cause. Under the guise of pointing out her Marleyan comrades, she leads Aaron into the open where Galliard attacks and the Marleyan military arrives for a surprise attack.
Boom.
Finale.
So
yeah, what's your gut thoughts there, Dave?
Wasn't a finale.
No, absolutely not.
Thank you.
Total win taken out of the sails episode, in my opinion.
Yeah, because
not bad, but
no, not bad, and again, anybody listening, we're not haters. We fucking love this show.
Absolutely.
We love this show so much. We talk about it for hours every week. But yeah, not a finale. And I don't think we're alone in that. I saw lots of people talking about that. I think that this, there's a difference between the finale, right? The closing of an arc and the setting up a new one between just a straight up cliffhanger.
The moment they should have ended the season was
even an episode or two ago.
Here's exactly where it should have been. It should have been Armin saying, "I know someone else or what's the line? He says always wants to kill or talks about killing a lot."
Yeah.
And then Aaron arrives, and it should have just went to black. See you next year. That's what they should have done.
Yeah, that would have been fine too.
Yeah. Because it's a separation of 1 or 2 episodes.
Yeah. Because we have so many cliffhangers, and it just felt a little cheap, and I don't throw that word around lightly. I saw some people commenting, some manga readers commenting this is a bit of an exception, and this is obviously not a spoiler because it's so damn obvious.
Sure.
That, we're not done with this arc. And generally speaking, the seasons have come at the natural conclusion of an arc. Mm-hmm. Right? Season 1 has a very definitive ending. Same with Season 2. And even Season 3, there's a very specific ending to parts 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. This is, some people were saying, this is about 85% of the way through of the story they're currently telling. So there's just, there's been so much setup, all of this new stuff going on with Aaron, and it all kind of finally comes to a head, but then also not because they take you out at the knees.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
more of a penultimate episode.
Yeah, I agree. It was a stage setter, to kind of, a little bit of throwback to Willie there. But that's what it felt like. This is jumping right to the absolute very end, but I find the closing moments of this episode was, Aaron is now on the stage for the world. Mm-hmm. Once again, he had his reveal, when he erupted from the cellars and killed Willie and got the arm or the Warhammer Titan. So it was very reminiscent of that, and there's a lot of story beats in this episode. Actually, there was a lot of parallels I found between this episode and that one in the cellar between him and Reiner in the moments leading up. It was a lot of everyone sitting down conversing. It was lore dumps within the world to characters that are kind of in the dark. Again, that was big major themes in the and I'm completely blanking on the name of that episode. It was probably 4 or 5 or 5 or 6.
I forget too, but I know what you mean.
But so it's it's not. But the nice thing is, though, I will say, it ends and it is going to open to like, it's going to be like cranked to 10, you know, it's
you're right
gonna
about
be,
that.
it's going to be worth it. I genuinely believe it. I'm not sad or like angry. It's just
You
like,
know what,
I wanted more.
You know what I can totally see them doing? It's going to be like season 4, part 2, episode 1 is going to be like a flashback episode.
Oh my God.
And they're not going to give us the action until like episode 2. So they're crazy fucking people.
But we'd still love it. We'd still love
eat
it.
that shit up. So yeah, I think, okay, so, you know, Grant and I don't talk about our feelings before the episodes. You know, we really try and keep it as fresh as possible. So, you know, it's good to know that we're on the same page in that regard. Let's start at the top of the episode now that we have, you know, a good read on each other. So it opens on Zeke, and it's his torso. You know, we've never seen, I don't think, anyone, including him, like, we've never seen a Titan shifter take this much damage.
It was kind of gross how beautiful he looked.
Oh yeah.
In that, you know what I mean? Like that whole scene.
This whole episode, man, like there isn't a ton of action, save for a couple frames at the end. But they have been really going for it in a lot of these dialogue scenes. You know what I mean? Like in a lot of these still scenes, just, you know, with just the weather and the lighting and the shading and just the amount of time that they're putting into character expression. This was also a really beautiful episode.
Yeah.
Zeke seems alive because he has an inner monologue and he seems to be like having brief flashbacks. And then a Titan shows up, rips open its stomach, and shoves him in.
Unreal stuff.
So
I couldn't believe it. I was like, fucker is getting away.
So my thought, and I don't know what you think, is he had control over that Titan and he called it.
Oh.
And he is going to do that to recover?
Sure.
Or, like, did you have a different thought?
No, it seemed like, you know, like, that the whole scene the scene seemed pretty obvious of, like, where there was going, that he was getting away. Mm-hmm. I hope that wasn't kind of like a hint of, like, Levi's plan was for naught.
Yeah.
You know, but just to see like Titans have like a thought, like, or like perform an action like that, because usually like it's either they're sprinting, running, grabbing, and eating, like, you know.
Yeah, they're not very objective oriented, right?
So it was curious to see, and that's the thing too, we don't even fully know, because there's a lot of hints in this episode about like what Zeke's real abilities are and like what like kind of the scope of his abilities are. Mm-hmm. And we've only really seen him yell to engage the transformation or to have them engage in combat. Like, it's never been like a point-to-point, like, give them commands and have them react. Like, from what I can recall.
I mean, he did it a bit in his first fight with Levi in season 3, but I see what you mean. Like,
but like to perform an action like that, like I thought it was always like attack this person or attack, like to have them like have a tangible thought.
I see what you mean, yeah.
Or like to choose something like that. So it's the out of the whole episode, it's the one thing that I'm just like, I'll remember this. Obviously, like it's you know, it's a major villain character who kind of, you know, ripcorded out of the situation. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's good to see Zeke all half dead looking. Fucking good for him.
And nothing on Levi, man.
Nothing.
Intentionally.
Of
course, intentionally. Yeah. I mean, I don't, you know, I think we can both say with a reasonable degree of confidence that, like, you don't kill Levi this way. Like, you don't give him an off-screen death. But it does make me wonder, like, you know, Flock and Hanji were, you know, they were on horses riding towards, I think, the forest of giant trees when they heard it, and they were making their way there. So I feel like they won't find Zeke, but they could find Levi. And it makes you wonder what kind of condition that he'll be in.
That would be a bummer if that's how he went out, like just like surrounded by Jaegerists and Hanj having to watch him get like shot. Like that would be, you know,
good way to kill him though, right? Like, because he's not going to lose a fair fight. Exactly,
and they probably know that. Flock out of anyone probably knows that. I did find the coolest thing about like the follow up scene of like Hanji and Flock. You know, like they're called thunder spears. I know it was so obvious, but like they hear the crack of thunder.
Oh yeah.
And Hanji immediately knows that that's
I
like.
think she designed them, right? In season
Yes,
2. Yeah.
she knows it's a thunder spirit, and it's like there's the whole setting of like it's the downpour and the rain, and they hear the thunder, and I was like, that's a really cool little, you know, design choice. Like the sound of thunder in the distance when it's actually like the spear going off. I thought I was like, that's some grade A shit. I love that.
I'm telling you, dude. In retrospect, you gotta look at that fucking scene in the first place. Like the scene of Zeke pulling the spear. Look at that shit with a magnifying glass, man. It is so goddamn beautiful. Like that was the best scene of that whole episode. It was such a killer scene. The next thing to happen is we go back to, is it Shiganshina? Yeah. So it's Pixis and Yelena, and they have a whole new armband system. What'd you think of that?
Really cool. Probably this is a really cool scene because both Pixis and Yelena have the opportunity to throw some absolute hammers at each other.
Yeah, I did enjoy that.
Both of them are just, very calm.
Just sort of sparring.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They were just sparring back and forth. Both of them had like just absolute killer lines. More in the beginning part of it when they're talking about the armbands. Like Pixis isn't a dummy. Like he picks it up right away. Like he knows. He can tell the guy that betrayed him has one color, and he's got a color, and then he sees someone else who he knows is the Jaegerist has a different. Like he just. That's a commander, right? Like he picked it up right away, and he knows. Like it's pretty obvious still, but like it was just good deduction on his part. And
yeah, so they divide the colors basically by like in order of loyalty, more or less, or not loyalty, but even just like what kind of a threat you are, right? So white for the Jaegerists, red if you were compelled to serve by the wine, and black if you refused and had to be more or less taken hostage and also ingested the wine. They have a great line. There's a really great exchange in here.
There's a few of them, yeah.
Do you have any favorites? I had one written down.
So my favorite, it was just so well. So when it strictly comes to the armband part of the conversation, there's a line where they have some back and forth about the armbands, and I know you have one of them, but it's kind of like the tail end of that conversation, and Pixis kind of just hits her. Sounds like how Marley does things,
Yeah,
like
dude.
It was just, or it might even be the beginning of that, like when they get to the right after he points at the armband stuff, but just so like it wasn't smug, it was just so a matter of fact, and I heard it and I was like, yeah, that's
man.
what we've been saying. Like
it is what we've been saying. It makes like, of course, the fucking armband system has made it here. You know what I mean? Because like, of course, that had to happen.
That's what they know.
Yeah. Super irritating. Yeah. My favorite from that exchange was. Yelena saying, you can learn valuable lessons from your enemies, because I think she actually might say that in reply to him talking about Marley.
Yeah, I think so.
And then, but Pixis comes back and says, most of all, how to make more of them.
Yeah.
And I was yeah, dude. Like, you've been listening to our podcast.
Absolutely.
Pixis is like, part-time otaku has talked about this. This is not going to solve anything. All you're gonna do is ensure that this circle continues.
It's a circle of hatred. We gotta end it. No, he also has a really good line of, and I'm totally misremembering where in the conversation, but he says, "So I don't know if we're fools or if we're wise." And then she tries to go like, "No, yeah, you're fools and you're wise." And then he kind of hits it home and he goes, "Well, some people would say," like essentially just saying like, "Yeah, well, like I'm right." Like, it's no, it's good. But then the conversation takes a really cool turn, and like, if you're doing the drink a shot game every time we use the word zealotry, but like this is just like a nice little wrap up of Yelena, just like, because she kind of warns him of like, Zeke gave you guys the chance.
Yep.
And then she makes a line, and it came out as the most like wackadoo, unstable person thing I've ever heard, and the line goes, "Zeke is the god who will save the world, and you have earned his wrath."
Yeah,
like she is so delusional about the big picture. Like she's clearly like in on the euthanization stuff, so like she's probably one of the only ones that really knows about it, I guess.
Yep.
For now, but it's just her sitting there and just like being in awe, and then she kind of returns to this conversation again later, like in the following scene, not with Fixus, but this is some standout stuff. And she called this when they arrested her. We'll be sitting at or when they were on house arrest when they came back from Marley.
Yeah.
She goes, we'll be dining at the same table again soon. Like, don't you worry. And you and I, from the moment she said that, we're like, we cannot trust her.
I remember being like, I don't trust this bitch. But yeah, this was in some ways kind of, not her episode, but she played more of a role in this episode than she has in many past, because it kind of reveals how much she knew, and she's kind of the messenger for a lot of this.
Yeah, she was the driver of the plot.
Yeah, she does tell Pixis, the rumbling ain't gonna happen, right? Because he's still under that pretense. So then from here we go to prison, and we get Jean, Armin, and Mikasa more or less doing a post-show analysis on what happened.
Yeah. What the fuck did you just go through?
They're like, okay, so in the Attack on Titan after show, how do you guys feel about what Aaron said to you? I'm sorry. But no, basically Jean asks, like, what's good? What did he say? And they sort of rehash it, and Jean kind of asks what I think we've asked and a lot of people are asking, like, do you think Aaron would say this to you he doesn't say, like, to protect you, but, like, he kind of says, like, do you think he has a reason, though?
Yeah, he says, I think if he was gone, or I think if he was sane, he wouldn't do it without a good reason. When talking about, like, the shit he said to Mikasa.
Yeah, his severing of the bond with her.
Yeah.
And this, the interesting angle that he took on Armin, and Armin potentially being kind of compromised by Berthold, and so on and so forth. I gotta say, just on this Mikasa thing while we're here, dude, like, I don't know when I became this person. We've talked about this, like, why I watch reaction videos.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know who I am. But I do that now.
You just watch reaction videos?
Yes. I don't know, like, when it changed. I think maybe quarantine.
Sure.
Of shows I've already seen. You know what I mean?
It's good. It's a nice little time capsule, like, see how other people felt. And
I think
you see
that's
it in the moment.
But anyway, I saw the pilot or 1 or 2 episodes of season 1, and they show fucking Mikasa having headaches really? Even as a child. Like, they show her having headaches. They, when Erin's, like, eaten by that Titan in season 1, like, her will to live before, like, she knows he's alive again is, like, all about Eren. It's like, I don't know, man. He might be fucking right about that. Like, I think you and I didn't, the reason we were conflicted and remain conflicted are because Aaron had some pretty good points, and there seemed to be some validity there, and that remains unchanged. For
that
me.
is the thing. Like, there is validity, I think.
Yeah.
But to take it to a tone like that was very, like, it's, I don't know. This whole scene, there's so many fun little things in this scene. For starters, if I ever went to prison, I would hope I get put in a cell similar to where these guys are put in. That had a stocked kitchen.
It did.
They had a full table, like a large, like, farm table. They had
Jordan Belfort prison.
Yeah, they had, only the heroes of Sheik and Sheena get that prison cell. I don't know, it was pretty good. But also, did you notice how fucking swole they were in, like, the animation style they were in that scene? Go back. Armin has the thickest neck I have ever seen in this show.
He was kind of different there.
All of them. Even Mikasa and Jean and Connie. Connie was ripped. Like, it was just whoever was in charge of this scene just made them pop. Like,
I saw one, like, kind of mean meme of, like, how, like, people have been, like, a little hard on Mappa for some of the inconsistencies or whatever. Actually, I have a note about that after this. But someone posted a meme. It was like, Armin getting that Mappa treatment, and it was like, oh my god! And it was a frame of, like, from the previous episode or two when his face is kind of, like, smushed into the table by Mikasa because he takes a swing at Eren. He just looks fucking cool. Like, just the level of detail. I think they just drew him really heavy in that frame.
Sure.
And then there's a frame from this episode where, like, at one point he turns. He just kind of has, like, a very rounded it's like he's gained weight almost. Like not, I don't think like it's an intentional he's gained weight thing. It's
He's
more
at the
like,
table. I think it's when Gene goes to ask, like, okay, like, what did he say to you? Or, like, why why did Aaron
he
beat
looks
you up?
very different.
Yeah, he looks like an absolute caveman. Like, it's
Yeah.
insane. It. Like, I couldn't.
So
it was so distracting.
yeah, when those little things are jarring. I will say very quickly on the animation thing, because you and I have largely enjoyed all of the animation, and then every now and again there's
moments,
bit of a nitpick, right? But we're not like these people who are fucking tweeting at the animators.
Oh my god, get real.
Yeah. That said, I've been looking up like not trailers, but just reviews of Jujutsu Kaisen. Because we're considering watching that at some point. And like people, I think this, Grant, but people are talking about how this is like one of the best, most consistently best animated shows like ever, especially for a shonen, because apparently there's a ton of fights and stuff.
Yeah.
I know nothing about it, but apparently it's all Mappa, right?
Yeah.
And drawn on a similar timeline as Attack on Titan, which makes complete sense.
Sure.
If you consider that maybe it was the same people or the same studio, and maybe they had to do that in conjunction with this. And we already know that they got like fucking 8 months to do this whole season.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought that was like kind of noteworty, especially because you had mentioned that they look different this episode.
Yeah, it was just that scene, because then you cut to them, when I guess we can naturally lead to this, but Yelena shows up, and there's like another kind of like from Yelena's perspective looking in on them, and like it's like they lost weight again. It's that there's that one momentary scene when Gene is talking to them about like, okay, so like what happened up there.
I'm gonna look at that again.
And like there's a shot on Mikasa at the table and Armin, and like they just look absolutely jacked. Like Mikasa's arms are massive, and like she's always had like like not that it matters, but like she, like a very lithe form, and they've always animated her that way. And just to see her like kind of bulked up, I thought maybe because like their gear was like tight on them or something like that. But that would that's just like justification.
So to you, it feels more of like an inconsistency and not a choice.
Yeah, and then it cuts to like Gene kind of like, and then I noticed it again when it cuts back to Gene, and then it cuts to Connie, and Connie makes the line of, "We all know like Aaron's like a piece of shit now." Mm-hmm. And Connie looks fucking jacked. And then it cuts like, a couple, like a minute or two goes by, and then Yelena comes in, and then, there's like the discourse between the two groups. Yeah. And they all look normalized again. Like it was, I don't know, maybe it was, like nothing bad. It was just something I noticed. But Armin specifically looks like a potato in that one
big
scene.
Time. So speaking of Yelena's arrival, there's a pretty fucking cool moment here, because she is kind of haunting, eh?
Yeah, she is. She's
they've done a good job with her character, considering she actually hasn't had a ton of screen time.
Yeah.
So Yelena arrives, and Greiz or Grisha, Greiz, depending on how you say it, is at her side. He's he's
this guy who worked with Niccolo in the kitchen.
Yeah, and we should mention Niccolo is in prison with them. He's in prison with the scouts, which I think
good company inside. that cell.
I think it attests to the fact that at the end of the day, Niccolo didn't really give a fuck about one group's motivations or the other. You know what I mean? Like his loyalty seemed to be dictated by his feelings for Sasha.
I do think the assumption is that everyone at the restaurant is in that cell, including the wife and the family and kids.
Good call. Good, yeah, because it was pre-packed.
Yeah. But you don't see them.
Yeah.
But you hear them momentarily, and I was like, oh shit, that was out of nowhere. We'll get to that, but
yeah. So they start kind of arguing, and then Niccolo and this guy go back and forth, and Grisha or Greiz is saying a lot of the stuff that we've heard before, right? But he definitely ups it a notch. He goes out to 100 real quick on Sasha, basically saying,
this was salt on an open wound.
Yeah,
it was
you
insane.
were in love with
crazy.
this devil whore from the island. He calls her a whore openly. He says, I thought you'd get over it when that bitch died. You completely lost, true to yourself, blah, blah, blah. He's really attacking Niccolo. Niccolo kind of takes a swing and misses. And I was kind of hoping Niccolo would get a shot in.
Yeah.
But he's just out of reach, and then out of nowhere, Yelena blows this guy's fucking head off.
Yeah. The audio of the gun going off was like jarring. That was that was smart. It was in
really
a closed
well done,
area.
Eh?
Yeah.
That was like, I don't often think, actually, it's funny I say this because like we'd had like 2 episodes, had like a 10-minute discussion on sound design. I don't often think about it. It's just like, when it's good and when it's bad, right?
Yeah.
And this was really good.
Yeah.
This was like the way that gun fucking popped. It was like
a cannon. It sounded like a cannon.
It was like the movie fucking Heat, like walking down Broadway. But yeah, so yeah, she blew his head off, and I liked this line because it's at least so consistent with her character, right?
Yeah.
She says, "You guys don't deserve to be insulted and called devils anymore."
No, yeah, there's no room for that, which was kind of not shocking, but it just goes to show like how dedicated she is to her religion at this point. It's all about the task. It's not about any of the other shit.
Exactly. It's individuals' feelings, like small conflicts like this are really outside of her purview. She doesn't really give a fuck, right? Mm-hmm. It's about kind of the mission. Mm-hmm. But she wants them to be treated, with some dignity, apparently, to that end, right? So, she basically says, "Okay, I'm going to tell you about the euthanization plan," and we don't get it in this moment, but she basically says, "Okay, I'm going to give you the reveal." Mm-hmm. Before that, though, there's like an Anya Capone moment.
Really, yeah. One of the standouts. There's a couple things I wanted to talk about that.
Hit me up.
Yeah. Well, it was, because you and I had mulled over the idea of maybe he was in on it and he was kind of playing Hanj in them a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think he is.
Same.
Because if you notice, he was also at the meeting with Pixis. Yep. At the table.
Yep.
I think he was like at her side or whatever, mm-hmm. at the table, and so he was there, and then he was down here, which I did find surprising, because I truly believe if Yelena knew that Anya Capone was like kind of with them and kind of siding with like them trying to, kind of sneak their way around like Zeke and Aaron and all that, mm-hmm. she would have wasted him too.
Yeah.
So, but he doesn't. But then, like when his response is, I think it's Connie. It's either Connie or Jean kind of call him out of like, or I'm surprised you're here or whatever. And and he kind of tries to tell him like calm down, like just kind of essentially like be quiet, like let everything go down good, like don't make a big fuss. And then he has the line. He essentially like he gets into like this beef with just Connie and Jean. It's just like a scene of the two of them, mm-hmm. and they're talking about he kind of just come out with them saying this was a primitive place, it was a primitive society, and like we, but my all-time favorite is their reactions.
Yeah, because they're kind of hurt. He says this place was in the past, we brought it to the present.
And Connie and Jean, without missing a beat, goes, yeah, you guys made sure that happened, like so you're gonna be able to enjoy this place when you're done. Yep. And it was just very like Connie was just and Connie's got a raw deal. Like it's nice to have moments with him like this, because he's always been like of the tertiary character. And I hate saying that because he's one of the, but like he really is.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
He's like the total underdog. He's the most unsuspecting, but like when he does his job as good as anyone else. Mm-hmm. And for him to stand up and have a line like this, like right in the season finale, I think it was kind of nice, because him and Jean kind of played, a little bit of second fiddle or even third fiddle this whole season. Mm-hmm. And for them to have moments like this of like, no, like fuck, like we're people in this world too. Because it reminded me of the scene with Mikasa and Armin, and they're in like that room, they're in that suite somewhere, and it's raining outside, and they're all kind of conversing about what just happened. And Mikasa's like trying to defend Aaron, and Connie and Jean are like not letting it go, like no, like look what he's done,
Can't give him a pass.
They can't give him a pass, and you can see that in this moment they're still following through. Like they
haven't let go.
They haven't let go, and they're also like, it's it's about like Titan powers and histories and legacies and all this shit and royalty bloodlines and da. But at the end of the day, like Connie and Jean are like the normal people in the room. Mm-hmm. They're the regular people. Like they just they just live their lives. Like they're in the Scouts and they're very involved in all that, mind you, but like they're kind of like the arbiters of like the everyman. And I don't know, that's just the vibe I get from them. It was just kind of nice to have them kind of stick up right at the very end and be fuck you guys.
Yeah, I thought that was an important moment for their characters, and it's good to have, I think, some layers to the show, right?
Yeah.
Like you have them having this moment with this guy, Anya Capone, and none of them have had a ton to do this season, but I think no one has missed what has developed between these people. That Anya Capone was kind of really welcomed at first, and he was like, there's a lot of complexity to that relationship. Yeah. So I think I agree. That was a really, really good scene.
And it was weird that he got a little pissy that, he, like, they kind of,
well, he said, it's like, you guys put me on house arrest. It's hard to have sympathy.
And I would have said, like, fuck you. Like, what were we supposed to do? Like,
It's like well, all your friends, as it turns out, are all fucking cultists.
Yeah. And there you are standing beside them like it's no big deal.
Like it's fucking Waco.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we so we cut, like I said, Yelena says, okay, I'm going to tell you about the plan. And then we cut. And now we get Aaron's scene with Gabby. And, this is interrupted, but it seems clear that, like, Aaron's plan here is he says, hey, if you want to save Falco, you're going to get on the radio and call for help. And you're going to, call the enemies here, basically. He wants to round people up. So it seems like he's, before he's interrupted, like, Aaron's, like, really going full steam ahead with whatever his plan is. Get more prisoners, eventually get Zeke. There's whatever the fuck they want to do.
There's no pausing. It's go, go, go.
Full steam ahead. Yeah. Which is just like, it's just so fucked because, we've talked about, like, what are his real motivations and this and that. And, like, even if he is protecting Mikasa and Armin by pushing them away, it really doesn't change what he's done. Like, it's hard to... You have to consistently remind yourself that he's killed children at this point. You know what I mean? He's killed hundreds of innocents. His hands are very far from clean. So regardless of what his objective ends up being and whatever, if they subvert our expectations in some creative way at the end, it's like this guy did not get out clean. You know what I mean? He was very much radicalized by the environment that he grew up in, and he definitely became kind of what he wanted to become when you look at his childhood, especially in season 1. It's kind of fucked up.
It's true.
So I just wanted to make note of that. But anyway, his ploy to use Gabby here is interrupted because fucking Piek walks in and just dusts the one guard, and you could tell Aaron didn't see this coming.
No, not at all.
He hasn't been really surprised too often this season. It feels like he's been in control. And in this moment, at least, for a second, he wasn't.
They do hint in the scene, like, immediately that I think Piek kind of gives it up that she knows that Aaron knows that she was there.
Yeah, but...
was he like leading her to Gabby?
I don't know, because there's a point I have here, but, like, it kind of gives away the ending. But, like, I think if you're listening to this, you know what the ending is. So I could tell you. Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
I think she plays him like a fucking fiddle.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because, she has him at gunpoint. He takes the bargaining power away. Be like, you're not going to fucking shoot me. It's like I'm the most valuable person on the planet.
Yeah.
And she says, you're right. And then, it kind of feels like now he has the power.
Yeah.
But then she leads him to the roof. And when he transforms, Magath is in the airship saying, that's the signal. Yeah. He's transforming. Therefore, that's where his location is.
Yeah.
So I think, her pulling the gun, her, quote, yielding to his superior bargaining position and then being dragged to the roof is really just her way of making him think he's in control so that she could bring him out into the open. Mm-hmm. She fucking played him here.
Big time.
And we've talked about how formidable Piek is.
Seriously. Like she's... Yeah. And because they make a reference... I think it's like the Warhammer Titan battle. Yeah, it's the Warhammer Titan battle. I think they make a point of like how Zeke always has her, like, he relies on her.
Yeah, he says that's
in a lot of
these situations. For you. Yeah. She's explaining the scenario to fucking moron Galliard because he just wants to charge ahead. You know what I mean?
Like an absolute.
She's
dummy.
Like, listen, you don't need to do that. They're on borrowed time. We just need to protect Zeke. And Zeke's like, yep, that's Piek, because she's always fucking smart. And I think he actually says, that's Piek for you in like episode 2. It's like hinted at that early.
Yeah.
That she's pretty intellectual and pretty talented, at least strategically.
She's clearly the one like with the most common sense in that crew. Like Reiner is just a
I think
emotional hollow
yeah.
hollow of a man. Galliard's clearly just a dummy.
Hothead, yeah.
A hothead dummy, and Zeke, who really knows, like, he's like the leader, but like he can't get in his head. So like, yeah, probably she's not exactly like working with a lot there.
But when this happens, so she pulls a gun, Aaron does the reversal, which was so badass, just for what it's worth. Like, him pushing, like, how many times have you seen that in a fucking cool movie? And it's cool.
Walk into the gun, yeah.
And it's cool every time, right? Yeah. Go ahead, bitch.
Yeah, do it.
But she doesn't. That was a great scene, man. Did you believe her, though, when she kind of threw her hands up and goes, all right.
You could tell in the tone of her voice. I was like, okay, that's strange. Because she kind of went to like, yeah, you got me. Like,
but then
like the way she was scolding Gabby. But in rewatching it a second time, she was kind of playing to Gabby, like the side of Gabby that she knew she could lead a little more of, like, she kind of hinted at like the comrade thing, because there's a really good line at the end of the episode that I wrote, that we'll talk about it then. But, like she kind of like hit, because Gabby like is a loose cannon. And there is one weird thing about this scene that I didn't like. It was, Gabby, don't talk. Gabby, grab the gun. Gabby, aim the gun.
Yeah.
Gabby, put the gun down. It was like, okay, like, you're gonna confuse the kid. You're gonna confuse the kid here.
Jerking her around.
Someone's gonna get shot. So like, chill out. I found that very weird.
It should have been like, Gabby, practice proper firearm safety protocol.
Yeah. Pull your fucking finger off the trigger.
Yeah. But no, I agree. That was a little janky.
Yeah.
But like, I gotta say, at least in this specific moment, I did buy it, because, at the same time, we didn't get a lot of backstory on Piek. It feels like we got backstory on literally everyone else.
Yeah.
But we didn't see really what's been driving her, and then she gives this whole thing about her, her dad or her parents or family, and like, it's very easily believable that her and Eldian like did this to try and bring honor and benefits to her family, and then has realized that like her term's almost up, and like they're kind of fucksville once that's like, that all tracks to me.
Yeah,
you know what
it all
I mean?
checks out.
She still lives in a fucking awful society. You know what I mean? So it, if she wanted out, that makes sense. So that made sense to me. But what really sold it was her saying that shit to Gabby, and I think there's a big potential that she meant all that, right?
Yes, I agree.
She might be smart. I think if anyone is smart enough, it's Piek, to be like, for her to understand that the deck is rigged against them just based on, their ethnicity, then it's her. And it's also, kind of in her track to be like, well, she's just going to kind of use it to her advantage, right? Like, but this moment of her like coming down on Gabby, I thought was really good, because Gabby's had so many of these moments, and finally she gets a moment like this from somebody she loves and respects.
Yeah. She's been getting this all from strangers leading up to now. Yeah.
Even if we, even if we are good Eldians, like, we're going to be slaughtered. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's,
or we're still a race of people.
That was the thing I liked. The thing I really liked about her, like her explanation of that, was that's kind of like what, like, as fans of the show, watching the show, it's the most obvious thing that, like, like, we're screaming at our TVs. It's like, they're going to kill all of you, like, one way or another. Like, no one, you guys are not the winners here.
You remain a threat. There's no gold star. You know what I mean? Like, the armbands are a gold star, but even that works to Marley's benefit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still control. It's just, a variation of control. It's...
This whole thing, by the way, this whole scene is playing with the new soundtrack in the background that I believe they released in this season, which is it's the same soundtrack as when Aaron is reported to have broken out of prison and he's walking up that hilltop.
Oh.
And they give him the robe. It's like this cool, like, dun, 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 dun. It's like a very, very, it's not at all like big and heavy orchestral. It's like a very chill,
subtle.
Yeah, I really, really like it. I've seen, like, it's apparently like some very well-known soundtrack that's used elsewhere. I don't know, but there's like cuts of it on YouTube and people love it. Anyway, I just noted that soundtrack was there. So yeah, that was I thought that was a pretty good scene.
Maybe before we go just a little further, I just want to take a moment with Gabby there. When it was so strange when Aaron came ripping into the room and he just openly refers to as, "Hey, brat who killed Gabby." I was like,
Brad who
fuck.
killed Sasha.
Oh, sorry. Wow.
No. Yeah,
It's
Gabby.
late. Yeah, kill yourself, child. Brad who killed Sasha. Like it was kind of like, oh fuck, like that seemed extra cold coming from you, and I'm not super hot on you right now, dude. So like you don't get to talk to her like that.
I really just want an excuse to give you credit, but you keep doing all this mean shit.
And like this just goes to show that like a line, like for me as a fan, I think they have done their job when it comes to storytelling. Is they introduced a character who is so vile to like the fan base, like vile toward, or like the fan base is vile towards, just because of like what she stands for.
Mm-hmm.
And to go, like for me, like I'm sure not everyone is like this, but when the main character of the show that we've been following for years comes in and says like a legitimate shitty line about a person that like this character killed that we all loved, I was like, wow, they have shown to me that like they're, like Gabby, I've not come full circle on Gabby, but they have done a tremendous job showing her arc and potentially like the opportunity for her to grow. And you can see every scene we've had with her since Falco got bottled, she is slowly trying to piece together what's going on. Yeah. And you can tell, I think Falco
she's kind of breaking.
Yeah, I think her finding out. Oh, maybe that's jumping ahead. Actually, now that I think about it, but
no, it's I feel you.
Her finding out that Falco has some of the wine in his mouth, or got some of the wine in his mouth.
Yeah, because that's like coming up, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's her gonna be. I'm not saying like there's gonna be not potentially. I think
she's had so many of these moments,
but one where it actually you can see her taking that step in a different direction.
Yeah, but
it's the first time for that.
Yeah, I think I know what you're getting at, and I totally agree, because they did a good job kind of making Gabby like the lightning rod of like just Marleyan brainwashing, right? Yeah. And a lot of the shit that she's done, the fan base I think really despises her for, but like I think you were saying just now, like the fact that you really feel for her now.
Yeah.
Like, and I really do. Yeah. And I know that you don't agree with this next one, but I have become very, very sympathetic to Zeke. Like I think he's
for sure
more villainous maybe than some others, but like Jesus Christ, that fucking last episode 15, man, like that was so well done. But yeah, I think that they're making these characters complete, and you can tell that in this moment, kind of with Gabby, like this poor girl. And then, of course, fucking Aaron comes in and like just rubs her nose in it.
Yeah. Hey, brat. Oh my god.
Yeah, even though maybe he's the most broken of them all right now. I don't know.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I feel you. So back to Yelena and the Scouts. This is basically like a cut. Like it's it's obvious that Yelena has already told them what the euthanization plan is, and now they're just like asking logistical questions. And I think like probably some of the audience has these questions too. It's like Jean's like, well, but if we can't breed, like it's just going to be the old people left. And he's like, nah. And her answer is like, no, don't worry, like you can pass the founding titan around, and then Historia has a kid and that person will be around for a long time, and if as long as you have the founding titan and you have access to royal blood, then you're fine.
I now understand the significance of her having the kid. That makes sense. I don't know why I didn't put that together, but the fact that she's currently pregnant.
Yes, now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that kid is going to mark the beginning of the end, more or less, right? Makes you wonder, like, did they convince her to have a kid? Is this sheer dumb luck? Is she in on it? We've gotten very little Historia this season, and she's a pretty key character because of her blood. Yeah. We don't really know where she's at. Like, is she being forced to do this?
Well, they had like the military leaders who kind of hit that story of like a romance, and we never really got it. It was just like hardly
one-off. Yeah.
You couldn't even call it a tease. It was such like a momentary fart. Like it was just like it came and it went. Like.
Yeah. So I don't know where that one is gonna go.
Next season. So.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. No worries. So, yeah, I don't know how that one's gonna go, man. But I guess we'll just have to see. Hopefully with the story, it picks up a little bit more next time. Um, what do you think about Armin being in tears?
That was confusing. I don't know
Like,
if
is he one to bluff like that? Like,
I think he's got the mental fortitude to give it a go.
that's the
Yeah.
only thing I can think of is that he's gonna try and align himself with Yelena because they're both smart, and maybe if he acts as though he buys it.
Because they really showed Yelena just kind of like was engulfed in, like just the life that came. I've never seen her with more life when she sees Armin's reaction, and I was
Yeah.
like, I wonder if that's what he was hoping for.
Yeah,
The other thing, the devil's advocate, is
That he
Armin has
actually-
been the one firsthand who is probably at this point now officially has the highest kill count.
Yeah.
Solely based on his Titan ability, and maybe he really does. And Armin has always been about peace, and he wants to avoid conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Armin could. There's a very good chance that Armin could legitimately see this a way to end the cycle of hatred and just brainwashing and just absolute maliciousness across just like the oppression of Eldia. It's fucked and depressing, but. I think there is a chance it could be both, and it kind of hurts to hear that. I immediately thought of what if this is like Bertold kicking in, because Bertold was kind of as similar of he knew the power of the Colossal Titan and how disastrous it was,
How heavy that weighs.
Yeah,
and also, man, this whole the language of quote this cruel world. You know what I mean? Armin has said that. Berthold has said half the fucking characters in this show have said that kind of shit. From season 1, all the way. It's been littered all throughout the show. So I think that it's possible that some people will identify. I don't know.
It was the most unexpected moment in the episode by far.
Yeah, it totally caught me sideways.
Yeah.
Yelena, talks about how Zeke's a god again, and how the noble brothers, Eren and Zeke, their motivations will be spoken about for millennia.
There'll be legends of millennia. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my god, spare me.
We've been through this. That bitch is crazy.
Yeah.
So we leave there and we go to Eren, and this is the last couple scenes here are really the climax of the episode, right? Couple important beats, I think. He cuffs Gabby to Piek. I think
a couple good head scratchers in this scene.
Yeah, and that's another moment, right? Just the cuffing thing is he was about to use Gabby as a weapon, right?
Yeah.
Before this, and now he's using her as a hostage by cuffing her to Piek, so that makes sense too.
Very fluid decisions.
It's all tracking and with this new Eren that we know. And then we talk about Zeke. Would you? Also, I should note, did you catch Galliard in the crowd?
Yeah,
I did too. That was kind of cool though, eh? You knew some shit was coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew when she looked, and then she did. It was so funny too because they had the crowd saying "Oh, that's a Marleyan soldier," and and then she goes "Hi there," and she does the waving, and then it cuts to Galliard, and I was
being what the fuck?
I was like, all right, dude, here's your moment to shine. Dude, stay cool.
the whole way though, I wasn't pausing a lot, but I was pausing every few minutes, being like, "There's not enough time."
No,
there's not enough time in this fucking episode. So I think I knew where we were headed. But anyway, Piek brings up Zeke and asks Eren if he knows why Zeke can use the spinal fluid thing. Because she says that she's only really known Zeke to be a liar, and the only time that she's heard him tell the truth is when they met 4 years ago, and Zeke said that he would come back and rescue Eren one day. What do you think about that?
I don't know if it was just, I don't know, Piek was just trying to sow some doubt into the whole organization. Clearly she knows the attack is about to happen, so any little mindfuckery,
information too.
It could be that anything she could get in possible. It's she's on a clock at this point, so it's it could be stalling too, because like we kind of alluded to that earlier in the episode. Like the attack is coming, and it does seem to be timed pretty perfectly. But I don't know. But this kind of just goes to show like how I feel about Zeke. This is a perfect conversation for you and I to have because you have a lot more sympathy for him than I do. I do think I think he loves Aaron, but I think he's using Aaron. I think they both think they're smarter than one another.
I agree with that.
And they're trying to outplay one another without openly saying it, and both trying to show like they have compassion for like their goal.
Mm-hmm.
So anything PX said in this moment was like, yeah, you tell him, sister, like fucking throw his ass into the ditch, like tell him everything. So, but to the fact that PX, who has served under him for so much, was just to throw him out like that, to try and I think she's just trying to fuck with Aaron's head, and then hopefully it gets back, and then that turns against Zeke somehow.
Yeah, I feel you. And then she says like, oh, like maybe she even said like as though she's taking a guess. Like the translation was weird. It was like, oh, maybe he has these types of powers. Like, no one really knows how he has these powers. Maybe he can draw out the founding Titans' powers. I didn't know what that was.
No.
That was just kind of a weird throwaway line. Like it seems to suggest that maybe she knows more than she says she does. I don't know, but I thought that was just another odd moment.
But even too, like the way Aaron turns on a dime on her and like kind of looks at her, but it's oddly timed with as he's turning, the door is also revealing the light. Like Elena's opening the door. So I wonder if he was almost like looking back to her in the darkness, trying to get like a read on her, and then kind of turns away once the light is revealed. Like he doesn't want to show his face or something to her. But yeah,
how cool is this scene though? When she walks Gabby to the ledge, and Aaron has the hand behind his back.
Yeah,
as though he's got a fucking gun.
Yeah,
that big time. I love that scene, man.
Elena too. Also, like you can't trust this woman.
Yeah,
and that was
interesting.
That
Elena protecting her investment there.
It was that, and it was also like Piek was coming. Like prior to Piek revealing her true intentions. She was throwing herself at the cause essentially. To just as Aaron potentially. That was what she was trying to sell Aaron, that she was against Marley and that they could work together. And it almost seemed like jealousy. Of like Yelena wants to be the one close to God, not like this person that just showed up kind of thing. It kind of like it didn't seem petty. It did sound jealous to me.
I don't disagree.
And because like that's like a big thing in faith, like especially people that are like in cultish like that. Everyone wants to be close to the leader, and they all they don't want to share. And it's
fucking and that's Waco, man.
Exactly. It's that's how like the cult leaders have so much power.
Yeah.
That they're able to just sway everyone within their ranks to work against each other to their own advantage. And but yeah, I know, like just the walk off of her going to the ledge and just the way, reveal the enemy, and she turns on a dime and points at Aaron. I was like, yeah, fuck you, Aaron.
Yeah. I liked that. Did you see it coming when Galliard fucking came through that floor?
It's so funny. I didn't.
Me neither.
Galliard, I assumed Galliard was right below them.
Yeah,
and
I didn't think about it at all. I wonder if he killed all those people below him in his transformation.
Oh, he must have, because he's such a smaller Titan. Like, there's no guarantee they would have heard it downstairs.
Yeah,
probably because do they all put off like an energy, like a radius when they transform?
I don't think it's a big boom so much as it is like it might just fucking squish everything around them. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true, because they were all pretty closely knit.
They were he was in a crowd at the time. But Aaron's quick on the uptake. He loses a leg there, but he's transformed very quickly in response. This was his first, I think, like fully hand-drawn transformation. Like they're still using a 3D model for his Titan, but he looks really good.
Well, this answers our question of what he was going to look like when he transforms now.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and it was just the Attack Titan.
Yeah, so actually one of my notes here is like, for things in part 2, do we think he has had any practice? Do we think he'll be able to just look like the Attack Titan but use the Warhammer Titan's abilities to fight his way out? Because he's in a bit of a precarious situation here, right? Zeke's not here as backup. Reiner's coming, Piek is there, and Galliard is there. And my other note is, does Annie choose to wake up now?
Oh.
I don't know if she has any way of really knowing what's going on.
Well,
but she is in
Galliard's
proximity.
been hopping around.
Yeah, so there's he seems to be outnumbered again, but and there's air support, but maybe one way to even those odds is start, you know what I mean? Use the Warhammer Titans abilities to even the fight out a little bit. So who knows?
Yeah, who knows? That is very interesting.
And as this shit kicks in, right? Like Marley pulls up out of the sky in those Zeppelins. It's the same soundtrack that they used in episode 1 of this season, where they're attacking Fort Slava.
Yeah.
And Marley's wrecking shit.
Yeah.
As Marley's pulling up, they use that same orchestra.
Guaranteed they're using that same tactic.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Oh, what you think? They don't have Zeke to use, the bombs.
Oh, that's true. Well,
though Reiner could jump out of the fucking sky.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I suppose I hadn't thought about the Zeke thing, but if they if they inject it directly.
Oh yeah, they could just.
They could be doing that.
Pop.
They could be doing that from the blimp.
Do that.
But it's funny. You had mentioned it, or we had both talked. There's a line that Piek has at the very end of, "I don't trust Marley, but I trust my comrades."
Yeah.
And the blimps come in, and the first thing I thought of was what a role, reversal from the original cast to the Marley crew. The starting of all this, everyone was united. Aaron was still involved, Armin, the original crew, everyone was tight, and then they're slowly deteriorating away. Even Gene and Gene's getting into it with someone about something. Is it Gene and Armin maybe? Mm-hmm. And Han has to no, fucking cut it out. We're allies here. You got to be on the ball. And Marley was kind of scattered. They were the ones there was bickering among them. No one was really getting along. No one trusts all the warrior candidates. Mm-hmm. And now they are all on the same page, and they are the ones invading right now.
And it's go ahead.
No, and that's more or less it.
It's almost I was gonna say it's almost like a callback to when Aaron had Reiner in that basement, being those letters didn't reach my family, but they did reach my comrades. You know what I mean? There's that level of trust there, and it felt like Piek knew that backup was coming.
Yeah.
But I think because of her language here, I don't trust Marley. I trust my comrades. I think what we were saying earlier still stands. I think she probably doesn't trust them at all, and she probably meant that shit she said to Gabby.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There are no good Eldians. There is no reward.
And do you know what was also really too an interesting? I forgot to write it down, but I thought of it now. McGath says the line "All right, let's do this. This is for Liberio."
Mm-hmm.
How shocking is that to hear come out of the mouth of a Marleyan general, probably the head of state right now, realistically. At least in a military sense.
It's always going to be a sense of payback, right? It's this, and even though it's not his home, but it sort of is
But still, he easily could have said this is for Marley, but he specifically said this is for Liberio, which is
the internment zone.
Yeah. So it's I think I'm not saying the Marley crew is going to be the good guys next season, because I think but this is going to be the Jaegerists versus Marley. This isn't going to be the original Scouts.
Yeah, they're definitely not. The Scouts are not at full strength. It'll be interesting to see if
whose side they go with.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if because they're under attack, do they just unite in order to defeat Marley? Right? Does it matter what side you really fall on? You live on the island that's under attack. You know what I mean? Or maybe they can't unite because they're all fucking in chains. And as a result, they're not at full strength. I don't know. I'm very curious about that conflict. I just thought of one last thing, totally unrelated. Did you catch that Mikasa wasn't wearing her scarf anymore?
Yes. Yeah.
That was the only thing.
Yeah, she's off.
That's some sad stuff.
She ain't drinking that Aaron Juju anymore.
So do you have anything major you're looking forward to? I have one big one for me, and it's that the memory / time travel plot mechanic wasn't touched even a little bit this season.
No, they opened it up, and that was it.
like, like it's sort of, Falco at one point in the pilot says, wasn't I just flying around with swords? Like, so I don't want to forget that. It seems like, Falco somehow, maybe at one point he has some memories that don't belong to him.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that big reveal from the end of season 3 hasn't really been touched. So I'm still very curious about the workings of time and memories from the future and the past and how that all works. And obviously I'm curious about the conflict, and maybe Annie will show up, but that's kind of it for me.
That's what I was gonna say. Like it's it's funny. Like logistically, I want to know how Annie wakes up, or if how she's freed. Like I wonder if they're gonna have a scene of Galliard sneaking away and cracking it open, because he knows that trick now. He had to go through it firsthand.
Right.
So he probably never knew that's one of the features to his power.
Yeah. Do you think she's conscious in there? Like, do you think she's just like or do you think she's just been in a coma for this amount of years?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I wonder if she could choose to wake. You know what I mean? It's hard to say, but
well, you would think because the Warhammer Titan
was totally awake
in that crystal, but it's not the exact same type of ability. It's that's more of like a major function to operate, whereas like Annie's is an emergency shell kind of thing. So,
right, it was kind of her last measure, right?
Yeah, so I don't know. The Annie's one thing. I'm curious how that's going to play out. Historia, obviously, a little bit more explanation on that. I'm curious to see where
Levi.
Well, Levi,
Zeke. There's just so much we don't know.
Yeah, if there's one thing I'm looking forward to, I'm very much looking forward to Reiner being of clear, sound in mind.
Oh, God, yes.
And proceeding to pound the snot out of Eren, or at least attempting to.
Yeah, I'm ready, not to sound, like, tired of it, but I am ready for conclusion to that arc. Like, they really fleshed him out as a character in this season, and I'm really, really excited to see where he lands and how that arc concludes.
Yeah.
I think... just to speak on season 4 as a whole, very briefly, I don't know about you. I'm confident you're going to agree, though, is that this show took me by complete surprise.
Absolutely. This season.
This season in particular. Seasons 1 through 3 are amazing. They do some amazing world building and character development and just like really cool drama and action. But season 4, as it turns out, was a total commentary and critique on war and radicalization and the weaponization of youth. And like even that other thing we said the other day, that quote about how one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Like this show has gone out of its way so deliberately to try and shove it in your face. You know what I mean? That it has something to say about all these types of themes. And that is just so not what I thought we were getting into.
I really didn't. I thought we were just going to get
so happy for it.
That was the nice thing. Like, not that we didn't enjoy it, but the first 3 seasons minus 1 episode, we were just in like in a high fantasy world with a cool the rules were there in front of us, and that's pretty much what, and there's a mystery, and that's just all we had. And then when it was revealed to us, it just it was just, it's like you said, like it just shows like it's just like a modern take of the world, like set in this setting. It's tremendous stuff. Like season 4 as a whole. I guess this would be a good time to do a quick little transition. We don't want to run too much longer, but like, what are just some for you personally? Like, just we'll rhyme off some highlights of the season or favorite moments of season 4.
I think I don't want to steal too many, but I think the time they took, those first 3 to 4 episodes, the pace that they established, that feels like a risk.
Yeah.
The time that they took to spend so much time away from the main cast and to force the audience to get to know new characters, so that they would then have like a vested stake in the drama that then takes place.
Yeah.
I thought that was like one of the coolest, most like ballsy creative decisions that I've seen in a really long time.
Absolutely.
I love
everything
that.
in Marley. Everything in Marley was just a perfectly wrapped
Because
gift.
you care so much about it when shit hits the fan.
Absolutely.
What about you?
So that I think my favorite, I think we've called like an arc of this season is the time they spent in Marley. From just learning, like meeting these new characters and spending some quality time with Reiner, who was a character I always really liked, and he was such a conflicted character, and they did a really good job of showing where that confliction came from.
We know why, and
we know why
that journey was worth it. I totally
absolutely
agree.
And like I'm ready for Reiner to whether he comes out victorious or he comes out it goes bad for him. I think his journey is ready to be complete in one way or another, and I think he's ready too. So I think that's going to be his advantage going into next season. I think another, to jump into the next one, their ability this season to drop a character in front of us and in record time. I've never seen this in any media form ever, to fall in love with a character or at least like understand their journey so quickly and so accurately and aptly. But it's whether it's Yelena, Gabby, Falco, Nicolo,
those are all new characters, and all of them I feel like we have a relatively good understanding of where they're at.
I feel like I've been on this almost 4.5 season, or I guess 4.5 season journey so far. It's crazy how they can do that. Like it's what stands out the most to me is their ability to introduce these characters.
Yeah, and for you to care. I think
absolutely.
You can, like, so many of these shows, I'm not naming names, The Walking Dead, will really just like put characters in briefly so that you care. So like then they kill them so that they can like kind of maintain some semblance of like shock value.
Yeah.
And that's you can only do that so many times before like the audience just stops caring, because there is so much death in Attack on Titan. Sometimes that like you worry, like if they do that too much, the audience grows numb, and we're nowhere near that. If anything, you just get more and more invested. You know what I mean? I totally agree. The way they've introduced a lot of these characters has been killer.
And what about anything else for yourself?
I think it's a little late. Well, it's sort of related to what it's sort of related to the earlier one I said, but that whole conflict in Marley, I think the episode when the audience realizes how changed Eren is, the basement conversation with Reiner might be my favorite episode of the whole season.
I would agree. I think so, yeah.
Because we haven't gotten a lot of time with Reiner or with Eren up to that point. We know he's different, but we don't know how different. And he, in that one conversation, in that one episode, really shows you how much that he's changed, especially his actions that follow it. But even just in that conversation with Reiner, I think it solved a lot of things, right? It brought a lot of questions to a close. I think that was probably my other really big noteworthy one. I'm sure there's others that I'm blanking on right now, but yeah, that's probably my other big one.
I guess lastly for me is the absolute banger of an OP for this season.
Yeah.
Dave, it's so funny. Like every week
so
I
many
sit
good
there,
memes about it.
It kicks in and I just immediately start grooving, and I look over and Leanna's just fucking, smiling, and just and it's like I can't help myself.
She sends me memes about it.
I know. Like it's it's so groovy
killer.
and psychedelic, and it's like tremendous. Like
yeah.
I hope the next one. Usually they do like even when they break down the parts. I think parts 1 and 2 had different OPs.
Yeah.
I hope it has a similar style. I'm not saying they need to redo that, and I'm sure if it's completely different, we're gonna love it no matter what. Because that dude, I've been obsessed with watching, just piano covers of these songs and people's versions and takes and the memes. Like the song fits so perfectly. Like you can put into anything. I watched, completely irrelevant. Someone made a 2-minute long, Star Wars themed like an anime hand drawn Star Wars like compilation of like moments throughout the entirety of the series, from like the prequels up to like episode 9, 1 to 9. And it was like super action, looked like a total shonen, and it was just the song being played over it, and it was fucking perfect.
That's awesome.
Like like the it's I gotta send that to you if I haven't already. But it's cool to see a song like this kind of transcend lots of mediums, and I've never seen more. Like, this is like breaking the seams this season. Like, it is getting out into the bigger world, and all facets of media has eyes on Attack on Titan right now. And I think it's the perfect time to, like, if someone's watching or listening to us right now, and if this is your first anime, like, you lucky son of a bitch. Like, this is
a big one. I mean, we get into it every week, but I agree with you, because if you think about animes that have really defined like a generation, or they really define just storytelling in general, I'm not saying, Attack on Titan is like this generation's fucking Akira. I'm not saying that, but it is clearly pushing the boundaries of kind of just what typical anime is, right? Like, I think a lot of people, like we just said, watch seasons 1, 2, and 3. We're like, oh yeah, like, it's good, like some cool fight scenes, and like, oh man, I'm so curious about that basement. Yeah. But like, yeah, season 4 has changed it. Yeah. It has changed the narrative. It has changed the way people think about this show. It has changed the lessons and the themes that are in the show, all for the better. Absolutely. I think storytelling in general is better for it. So yeah, I agree.
Alrighty. Well, I think it's I don't want to do it. It feels weird having to close out part 1 of season 4.
But this is it. If you listen all the way, thank you. You've been on this journey with us. We said our thank yous at the top, so I'm not going to do all that again. But it would be crazy not to say just
I'm saying it again. Thank you guys. Yeah. Seriously, if anyone listening to this right now who has listened to every episode, family or not, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. This has been truly special for both of us.
Big time. Grant and I, we started doing this just because we wanted to talk more, right? And I'm so glad that we are talking more, and we'll probably keep doing it just for that. But like, the fact that anybody's even interested in what we have to say, that that means a lot. So yeah, continue to like, comment, subscribe, or even just listen. It's all gravy. We love it. This is it for Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 1. Keep your eye on the feed. We'll be back at it in no time with probably some My Hero. But until then, we'll see you.
See you next, guys. Plus Ultra.
Plus Ultra.